So tonight I'm asking the question, is scalping really a problem? And specifically I'm talking about it in relation to Warhammer Quest Cursed City, which just came out this weekend, because I have seen a lot of negativity online saying, screw the scalpers, all the scalpers have got all this stuff, they're whacking their prices up, I didn't get one, and that general type of stuff. But it seems worse for this release. I don't know if it's because people are more hyped for it. I don't know if people think it was more limited, but the negativity around this seems a lot worse for this online at the minute. So I guess I should really start with this sort of defining what I see a scalper as, because I think everybody has maybe some slightly different opinions. So at least I'm kind of laying it out what my opinion is. So a scalper is anybody who buys a product, in this instance Cursed City. They buy a product with the sole intention of selling it for profit, because they know it's going to be in high demand, they know it's going to be in short supply, so they buy it with the sheer intention to sell it for a profit. Now that might mean they basically buy the box for £100 and then they sell it for £200 on eBay or something. It might mean that they buy the box for £125, they might pay a full retail price, but then they split down the components and sell the model separately, and sell this group of models separately, sell this model separately, sell the rules and the cardboard, and sell all of that separately, and make more than they spent by breaking things down separately. I don't think we can distinguish, or we can separate people who sell the box at a high price versus people who split the box and sell it out separately at a high price. Either way, they are, and I say this kind of in inverted commas, they are taking the game away from somebody who legitimately just wanted to buy it to play the game. So I don't think we can kind of separate that kind of stuff. So that is basically the what I would consider to be a scalper at the moment. It's happening with things like PlayStation 5 at the minute, with the new Xbox, that kind of stuff. It's not just limited to Games Workshop stuff, but it feels at the minute there is a lot of negativity about the Games Workshop stuff. So I guess I'm going to play devil's advocate here. This is not necessarily kind of like, I'm not pro scalper. I've never bought anything to kind of sell at a profit type stuff in that regard. So I'm not defending scalpers, if you like. But I guess there's two sides you can look at it. You can look at it from a very it's a horrible negative thing and say that it's disgusting. They are stealing product away from people who are willing to pay kind of list price for it. They're taking it away from them, and they are depriving gamers in this case from getting their hands on Cursed City. You can see it from the complete opposite flip side and say these people are entrepreneurs. They are just doing exactly the same thing that any retail store does. They buy something at one price, and because there is a need for it, there's a desire for it from other people, they put the price up and they sell it for a higher price and make a profit. And the reason they can do that is because there are people willing to pay the higher price. You could say that the market sets the price, that if no one was willing to pay the higher price, scalpers wouldn't exist. So you can kind of see it from two sides. You can decide which side you want to sit on that fence, but there is two sides to everything, as there always is. So one thing I'm going to talk about now, which is kind of morally a little bit sort of uncomfortable, is that technically scalpers are not taking the games away from gamers. What they are doing is they are taking the game away from somebody that was going to pay list price, and they are replacing that person with somebody who is willing to pay more money because they really want the game. So in real terms, gamers still get their hands on all of the games. The people that want the product still get their hands on it. It's just morally very uncomfortable that it starts to come about who's got the most money, who can afford to pay the higher price, who thinks the value of the product is worth the higher price, because they didn't take the time to kind of be ready on launch day to pick it up themselves, because they just thought, you know what it is, I've got more money than I know what to do with. I'm not bothered about getting caught up in that rush. I'm not willing to wait until it gets reprinted. To me, it is worth the extra money to pay one of the scalpers to have it now. And that's what feeds scalpers. However, if you take kind of like the moral kind of if you take the moral high ground out of it about people paying over the odds for it, gamers are still getting their hands on the games. So technically, gamers are not missing out. It's just some gamers miss out, other gamers get their hands on it. But it is it becomes morally uncomfortable at some point. Now, the other side of it is everyone has an equal opportunity to get their hands on this game. So Games Workshop has been hyping this up for weeks. They have been telling everybody, if get ready, 10 o'clock, pre-orders go live. You can pre-order it from your friendly local gaming store. You can pre-order it from our website online. Everybody had the opportunity to be there at 10 o'clock or whatever time it was in your particular region. Everybody had that opportunity. Now, you might have been at work. You might have slept in. You might have been looking after the kids and forgot about it. You might have decided you didn't really want it and then changed your mind a bit later in the day. However, everybody has equal opportunity. Be that you or be that the Scalpers. Everybody has the opportunity to do it. Games Workshop did pretty much all they could have done by saying it is one per person. So what they've stopped doing is, I think in the past they said like 5 copies of this or 3 copies of that. They kind of stopped what they said. They've stopped what they've done in the past and said 1 copy per person. And they've also said this is coming back. It's been reprinted. If you miss out, you'll have to wait a few weeks or maybe a month or so. You wait a little bit longer and there'll be another wave along as quickly as we can, kind of thing. So it's not like they are saying this is one run and done. So I think in this case, it's a little bit different to those kind of like those one-off boxes and stuff. And again, I think people need to kind of almost rein in some of their anger about this kind of stuff. Scalpers are not stealing from your friendly local gaming stores. So for instance, it's not like there is less to go around in friendly local gaming stores because Scalpers have grabbed them all already. Scalpers are not stealing them from sort of GW so that GW can't give them to friendly local gaming stores. Gaming stores get their allocation confirmed a few days before pre-orders go live. So it doesn't matter how many Scalpers pick this game up, the local gaming stores were always getting the allocation that they were getting. Because I've seen that levied at some people saying, my store only got 5 copies, it's because all the Scalpers get it. That's got nothing to do with it. Your store was getting 5 copies, whether Scalpers bought all of GW's stocks or they only bought 1. Your store was still getting 5 copies. Now, the other side of it is when it actually comes. I've just got some notes here that I want to kind of show something. When it actually comes to how many GW made, how many GW sold, versus how many Scalpers get their hands on this kind of stuff. Let's take the UK as an example because I'm more familiar with the UK market. Now, those kind of keys to Ulthuncon that were available as a pre-order bonus, there was about 5,000 of those keys. I can't remember exactly how many it was, 5,300 or something like that. But for the first 5,300 people, let's say, or the first 5,000 people that ordered the game, they would get that key free as like a pre-order bonus. However, once those keys ran out, there were still other copies of Cursed City available, but you didn't get that key. But we can use that as a benchmark to say, how many copies do we think GW sold themselves on their website? Because those 5,000 keys lasted about 10 minutes and then they were gone. So we can assume by that they sold 5,000 copies in the first 10 minutes. However, Games Workshop's website still had Cursed City copies available for about another 80 minutes. You could pre-order that for about 90 minutes from 10 o'clock to about 11:30. Games Workshop's website in the UK still had copies of Cursed City available. We were sitting chatting with all of the Patreons in our Discord chat on Saturday. We were saying, it's still available, I can't believe it hasn't sold out yet. We were chatting that through, so I can say, because we were sitting there chatting and clicking the buttons, it was about 90 minutes before it sold out on Games Workshop's website. So if we say they sold 5,000 copies in 10 minutes and it still had another 80 minutes of sales, let's be really conservative and let's say they sold 30,000 copies from their website. Let's just say they only sold 30,000 copies. I think they sold more than that, but let's say they sold 30,000 copies. On top of that, friendly local gaming stores, they were selling them. So I purchased mine from Goblin Gaming. They didn't seem to have very many available, but I bought mine with the hardback book. I was straight on there at 10 o'clock. The order went straight through. My email says 1 minute past 10 was when it was confirmed. Then the book sold out quite quickly, and then they still had a few copies of the game available as well, and then they sold out as well. But there was other game shops that I saw. There was things like Mighty Lancer Games still had 50 copies left by about 10:15, and we were kind of like sort of sending people over there and have a look at this. Wayland Games still had copies available much later as well. Element Games seemed to have a lot of copies available before they sold out as well. But even if we err on the side of caution, let's just say there was only 1,000 copies in the UK between all of the different retail stores. I think personally there was much more than that, but let's be conservative for the sake of these numbers. So let's say in total there was 31,000 copies sold on Saturday morning. How many of those all went out to scalpers? So what I've done to try and have a little look is I have had a look on eBay today, and I'm gonna share this with you. So here's eBay. If I put in Cursed City and I click search, and then it's sort of set up for the UK, and if I put it by highest price to lowest price, I've gone through this list, and yes, there's some stupid prices on here. Who's going to pay £1,000 for that book? Who's going to pay £300 for a copy of Cursed City? It's stupid. But I've gone through and I've counted up how many full box sets of Cursed City. I haven't included all the ones that's broken down because I can't tell how many of them is one person sort of broken down a box, sort of that kind of thing. But I've gone through, and do you know how many copies are available on eBay? There are 32 copies. 32 copies available, being sold as full boxes. And then there's all the other ones that's being split down and stuff. So if we take that in mind, right, let's say there's not even 100 copies, 100 full copies on eBay. Let's err on the side of caution again, and let's say that actually some people haven't had a chance to list them yet. Some people have got 2 copies, and they might be waiting until one arrives, and then they're going to try and sell the second one. Let's say there's 200 copies available. The thing is, 200 copies that have gone to scalpers, because let's be honest, they're not really selling anywhere else outside of eBay, I wouldn't imagine. 200 copies have gone to scalpers out of a really low estimate of 31,000 copies sold on Saturday is like 0.7% of all product that's sold on Saturday. Somebody mentioned in the chat that I think people overestimate just how much the impact of scalpers is. And this is really my main point about how much of a problem is it really. I think if people miss out, they instantly want to blame these kind of like hidden scalpers that are sitting with kind of like big computer banks, and they've kind of got all this fancy software and they're buying up thousands of copies of this thing. That's just not what's happening in this. It's not like they're buying up PS5s. It's not like they're buying up new Xboxes. They're not buying up kind of like limited edition Jordan trainers. Like, these are just copies of Cursed City. Yes, some people are buying this to sell it on, but the problem is minuscule in comparison. I mean, let's just say that, for example, let's say there was 40,000 copies sold. And let's say that there is only 100 copies on eBay. Like I said, I counted 32 copies for sale. Let's say there really is only 100, and that actually there was maybe like a few more kind of sales dotted about through the day. 40,000 copies with 100 copies sold by scalpers is 1/4%. Like 1/4%. There was probably 100 copies went out to YouTubers. Like, this is a tiny, and this is just in one country. This is just in the UK I'm comparing. Not to mention we start sort of spreading out into Europe and around the world and into the US and stuff, and Australia. This game did not sell out in like 5 minutes. It didn't sell out in 10 minutes. It was still available for 90 minutes, for you to put your pre-order in. So unfortunately, I'm going to be a little bit harsh here. If somebody missed out, and it wasn't because of the stuff I talked about before, where there was computer errors and people thought they had the order and then the order was cancelled. If somebody missed out, there's one of a few things happened here. One is you weren't ready at 10 o'clock. I was talking about this last week when I was saying everything you need to know before you pre-order. I said be there at 10 o'clock. Sort of fill in all your details in advance. Make sure you've saved your credit card details. Make sure you've got an account set up. Make sure you've signed into your Warhammer account. Speak to your friendly local gaming store. If you really wanted this game and you were ready at 10 o'clock, you'd have got a pre-order. You would have got a pre-order. If there's people in the chat tonight saying that people have been saying it's sold out in 5 minutes, but I got mine like an hour later on. What might have happened is that if you had your basket on the Games Workshop website and you had a key in the basket and you had the game in the basket, or you had the book in the basket and you had the game in the basket, if the book or the key wasn't available, it wouldn't let you purchase it. And I think some people were seeing that and they were thinking, oh, it's sold out, I've missed out kind of thing. If you took the key out, if you took the book out, you could still buy that game for 90 minutes. So I think, unfortunately, if you missed out, some people were saying, I got the email from Games Workshop, it didn't come out until about 10 past 10, and when I clicked on the email, it was already sold out. One, if you really wanted it, why were you waiting for an email to tell you about it? Two, if it wasn't sold out 10 minutes afterwards. It might have been at a friendly local gaming store, but it certainly wasn't on the Games Workshop website. The other side of it is, they're making more. So Scalpers haven't gone overboard on this one, because people are going to be able to pick it up in the next few weeks. So I think this one is, if I'm being perfectly honest, this one is getting blown completely out of proportion. Scalpers are not buying up all the copies of this and forcing the price up. We've already shown that I said there's about 32 copies on eBay. That's not a lot compared to the amount that was sold. And it's coming back. It's coming back in a few weeks. I think that actually the reality of this is that it's potentially GW's one of their better launches for a new product, if I'm perfectly honest. Like, it doesn't matter if you're buying concert tickets, if you're buying Super Bowl tickets, if you're buying sort of fancy trainers, if you're buying Supreme clothes, you're buying handbags, watches, games consoles, you're buying art, you're buying fancy cars. Anything that is kind of desirable and is a luxury item and it has a limited amount of stuff will always have these kind of like scalpers and stuff. But it's just not as big an issue as people think it is when it comes to kind of to Curse City stuff or to Games Workshop products. GW isn't really the issue here. Like, people are saying, well, why didn't they just make more? Why didn't they make enough for everybody? I've done a video that on my channel about the kind of like the secret behind these boxed games and why they're in short supply. And I'll give you the kind of like the really quick version of it here. There is one is that they make the product sort of 12 months in advance or 6 months in advance. So they are guessing into the future about how many they need to make before the hype has even come out, before anybody even knows the game is going to be a thing. And the other thing is because they are absolutely full at the moment. They're playing catch up after the COVID shutdown. They shut down for a period of time. Like, they can't just work faster to make up that backlog because they're already flat out, that their machines are at full capacity. And what they do is they have a production window where they say, right, we're going to make, let's say, 40,000 copies, because that's what we've been talking about. We're going to make 40,000 copies, and then we need to stop making that because we need to make the next product that we're going to sell. So what happens is that's why this comes in waves, because what they'll do is they might be making, I don't know, the new Necromunda box set that's coming out. That line might be making that now. And then what they're doing is they're trying to squeeze in a little bit more of the Cursed City stuff to refill the supply chain again. So it's not a case of just they should make more. It costs a lot of money to have stock just sitting in the warehouse that isn't selling. So what they do is they'll make a production run, and then they'll go and do something else, and then they'll revisit the production run as well based upon what they think the estimated demand is for people that kind of still want that product. So it's not as easy as you kind of make it out. Somebody's saying there, it'd be nice if GW was more of an honest actor here. It's not necessarily a case of being an honest actor in this one. It's saying we all know they make low runs of stuff they plan to sell separately. In this case, they're not doing that. They're not going to sell stuff in this box separately. This is a self-contained boxed game, and they will continue to sell this boxed game into the future, probably for the next couple of years. So GW aren't really to blame on this one. Scalpers, as I demonstrated, aren't really to blame on this one. I think, unfortunately, in this case, if somebody really wanted this and they didn't get one, they kind of have to look a little bit closer to home as to why they didn't get one. Why weren't they waiting at 10 o'clock with everybody else sort of clicking? As I said before, there are some people who got screwed over through computer systems, and I have complete sympathy for them. But if it's just somebody who decided, like, Sunday tea time, or actually I've been thinking about it and now I'd quite fancy it,
Unfortunately, you were too late. You'll have to wait for the next wave. You weren't there at 10 o'clock with everybody else that kind of managed to secure one. And unfortunately, that might sound really harsh, but it is just life. If there are a lot of people who want something, then you have to put the effort in. If you're at work, try and get somebody else to do it for you. Try and get kind of like time, take your lunch break or something at 10 o'clock, whatever it is. If you really want it, try and find a way to do it. Speak to your local gaming store, that kind of stuff. But I think kind of getting angry at this sort of 0.25% to maybe 0.7% of people that are scalpers. Like, there's probably, you'd be lucky if there's 200 copies in the UK, for example, have gone to scalpers. Like, that's not, like, if you'd been there at any point in the first 90 minutes, you'd have got your hands on it. So it might be harsh, but I want you to think a little bit differently about scalping. Is it really the problem that you think it is? You might morally not agree with it, but is it really a huge problem that's impacting upon you not getting your games? Or maybe could you look a little bit closer to home and you just weren't there, you weren't ready for it at 10 o'clock? Is that the problem? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it. And if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month. And there is lots of different tiers and bonuses, which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.